Okay, so ano nga yung chapter na binasa natin? Niya pala. Genesis 15. Okay, Genesis chapter 15. So, I was watching the YouTube at pinanood ko si R.C. Sproul. Sino nakakilala kay R.C. Sproul? Si Pastor Ayan lang. Okay, so R.C. Sproul actually is very popular sa mga Presbyterian, pero kasama niya palagi si John MacArthur, also sa mga meetings nila. And I read the books of R.C. Sproul back in the 80s. So medyo pasensya na kayo, medyo matanda na ako. And another one is Sinclair Ferguson. Kasama din palagi ni John MacArthur. Pastor, narinig mo na rin yon si Ferguson? So sa mga panel discussion kasama niya palagi si John MacArthur also. So nung kinasal ako, tinanong ako kasi iba yung to tell you what kind of church we have at saka si Mrs. Bago ka magpakasal, you have to be interviewed by the pastor. So I have to go to Manila, nasa Iloilo ako, I have to go to Manila just to meet the pastor because he's going to interview me. So ang tanong niya, unang-unang tanong is, what book are you reading right now aside from the Bible? So ang sabi ko, yung binabasa ko is Sinclair Ferguson, and it was about the basic doctrines of Christianity. So just to give you an idea, that was back 1991, and still he is talking with John MacArthur hanggang ngayon. So itong mga klaseng tao, R.C. Sproul, Ferguson, MacArthur, makikita mo, pag pinanood mo yung si Horton at saka si sino pa ba? Si Allen Briggs at saka si ang presidente ng Southern Baptist Seminary ngayon. What is the name? Kalimutan ko. Anyway, so yung catechism na ginagamit ko before ay kay James Montgomery Boyce. So makita mo rin palagi siya na mention when they are discussing. He was also previously the president of Southern Baptist Convention. So, ibig sabihin talaga matanda na ako. Medyo pakipatay nga yung ilaw. Nagre-reflect yata. Nagre-reflect para sa ko dito. Okay. So, bakit ko na brought up itong discussion na to? Kasi tinanong si R.C. Sproul ng isang tanong na medyo nagulat siya kasi taga UK si R.C. Sproul, and ang tanong sa kanya is, ano ang life verse mo? So, pwedeng itaas ang kamay ng mga may life verse. Nasabi nilang life verse. Okay? So yung nagtataas ng kamay, ibig sabihin, pamilyar siya sa tinatawag na life verse. Okay? So, madalas ang life verse natin ay John 3:16. Siyempre, para pag ni-recite mo, so every time na may nagte-testimony, nagtatayo dito sa rap, I would always expect na nagbibigay ng life verse niya. Kasi napagalitan na ako minsan. So, nagkaroon ako ng testimony sa Campus Crusade for Christ. Ang dami kong sinabi, na upo ako, tapos sinabihan ako ng staff, anong verse ang kinote mo? So, wala siyang kinote. So, sinasabi ko sa inyo, pag tumayo kayo dito sa pulpito na to, bibigay kayo ng testimony or whatsoever, always find a verse na pwede mong i-quote para sa buhay mo and how it affected you. So, ganun lang ka-basic. Ganun ka-importante yung verses. So, anyway, balik tayo kay R.C. Sproul. So, si R.C. Sproul tinanong, sabi niya, parang bago ko lang yata narinig na merong life verse. So, hindi siya popular sa UK, popular siya sa Amerika. Kaya, ang taga-iba sa atin, naintindihan ko dahil taga-UK kayo. Kaya wala kayong life verse. So, yung mga Amerikano, may mga life verse. So, ginawa niya, so nag-isip siya, and then, for so many times, palagi siyang tinatanong, and eventually, he arrived with the conclusion na iisa yung life verse niya. So nung tinanong siya, ang sagot niya is Genesis 15 verse 17. Genesis 15 verse 17. Hindi, of course, everybody will be looking at their Bible, tapos titingnan nyo. Hindi, nagulat sila. Ano to? Ano ba ibig sabihin nito? Anong implikasyon ba nitong verse na to? Kasi ito yung verse na sinabi niya. Sabi niya, nang nagtatanong, Pastor Sproul, tama ba yung sinabi mo? Genesis 15:17, could you please check? Di chinek ni Pastor Sproul. Sabi niya, tama naman, tama. Ito yung sinasabi ng verse. The sun set, and it became dark. Then a burning torch, as a pot filled with smoking coals, appeared. They passed between the pieces of the animals that they had been cut into two. Anybody could explain to me the importance of this verse?
Genesis.
Chapter 15, verse 17. Si Pastor Tonet kasi alam niya to eh. Mabilis siya tumayo eh. Tinuro sa seminary namin na ganito ang ibig sabihin noon. So talagang bilib ako. Sabi ko, ang galing nung teacher. So I expect si Pastor Ayan, si Pastor Ramil, medyo maka... So ito yung tanong. And kaya sabi, ano ba ibig sabihin nito? That's why he has to explain. He has to explain why is it very important to him. And this time, I will explain to you why is it important. And why the gospel, the good news, pinag-usapan natin is related to this verse. And practically to the whole chapter of Genesis chapter 15. So, God's covenant, gospel assurance. We only have assurance because we have God's covenant. And what is the God's covenant? So yun yung background natin. Nakita natin, I hope na napanood nyo, nabasa nyo, napag-isipan nyo. So it's something like a partnership, and always, it is God that initiates, and it's God that fulfills and completes that partnership. So palagi tayong palpak. And yet, ito yung nakita ni R.C. Sproul, na assurance niya, kaya sigurado siya, maliligtas siya because of these words. So review natin yung pinag-aralan natin. During Sunday, nag-aaral tayo right now, backdrop dahil nag-aaral tayo sa Buddhist, paano mag-share ng gospel, nag-review tayo about the gospel, and also sa Fridays natin, pinag-aralan natin yung fundamentalism and Christianity, or the fundamentalist concept of Christianity or view of Christianity, at na-relate din dito sa ating pinag-aaralan na gospel. So, una, nung Friday, last Friday, ang pinag-usapan natin is the substitutionary atonement of Christ on the cross. How His death paid the payment for our sins. Ganun lang siya ka-basic. Number 2, ang conclusion natin ay kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng Lord's Supper dahil doon. At dito, i-relate natin din ngayon yung covenant with regards to the Lord's Supper. At bakit hindi pwede na naglo-Lord's Supper tayo, parang wala lang. It is so important. Once we realize yung Genesis chapter 15, verse 17. And last time na nag-usap tayo on the Sunday, ang pinag-usapan natin is the gospel and the gospel of the kingdom. So, tuloy-tuloy natin, we still relate to the gospel, but now we focus on the covenants. So, just to review how we are introduced in the gospel. Ano ba yung gospel? So, noong unang nakikita natin, when we were discussing about the gospel when we studied the book of Romans, ang gospel explained and it focused on Romans chapter 4. Kasi yung Romans chapter 3, sinabi, lahat tayo ay makasalanan. All of us has failed the mark. Okay? Yun yung conclusion doon. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And then, introduce tayo sa, we are justified not by our works, but by the work of somebody else. And what we need to do right now is only to put our faith, put our trust, to believe in what Christ has done. When He was living here, when He died, when He resurrected, and He ascended on His throne. So ito yung makita natin. Romans chapter 4, ito yung, I would like to introduce this because Genesis chapter 15 was quoted in this verse. And actually, it was expanded kung babasahin mo yung Romans chapter 4. But we will focus on these verses alone. Shall we read this together? Begin. What then shall we say was gained by Abraham, our forefather according to the flesh? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the Scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due. And to the one who does not work, but believes on him, who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted as righteousness. Kung sinusundan nyo yung pag-aaral noon sa Romans, at kung titingnan mo rin yung kwento sa Gospels, makikita mo that there is a contrast between two covenants sa Old Testament. So, na-explain sa atin yung ilang covenants. Okay? Can you name the 4 covenants na diniscuss? Was it 4? Okay. So, the first one, ang na-mention lang, the covenant with Noah, covenant with Abraham, covenant with Israel, and covenant with David. So, 4. But we will focus our attention on the covenant between Abraham and Israel. And Israel actually is through Moses. So yun yung, that's why every time the covenant to Israel is spoken, it is always according to the law or according to the law of Moses. So doon nakabase yung covenant. In fact, that was the sign of the covenant. The 10 Commandments is the sign of the covenant. So titingnan natin in this manner kung paano nagkakaiba yung Abraham at saka yung Mosaic covenant. Importante nating maintindihan na we are connected with the Old and the New Testament. In fact, nung bata pa ako, when I was very early in my Christian walk, palagi ang tinatanong ko ang salvation o kaligtasan ba ng lumang tipan, the Old Testament, is the same as the New Testament. And a lot of pastors I heard speaks differently. I don't know where they came from. They took their theology. I do not know if it's from the seminary or from their own studies or because they lack studies. Sabi nila, magkaiba. At ang kaligtasan ng mga Israelites noon ay talagang para sa pamamaraan ng good works at ang kaligtasan ng New Testament naman ay sa faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And yet, when we look at the Old Testament, ang kaligtasan, ang pundasyon ng kaligtasan is the covenant to Abraham. Not to Moses, not to the law, not to the obedience to the law, but it is to the belief of Abraham. So ito yung makikita natin. That's why we go back to what happened sa istorya ni Abraham. At bakit si R.C. Sproul, sabi niya, this is the best life verse I can remember na talagang napaka-importante when we are talking about the Old Testament. So, when we look at Genesis chapter 15, kailangan malaman na natin back in Genesis chapter 12. Chapter 1 hanggang chapter 11, wala tayong pinag-usapang Israel, Jews. But in chapter 12, this is the call to Abraham. Or Abram. So tinawag si Abram, umalis sa kanyang lugar at pumunta sa land of promise dahil ibibigay niya sa kanya yon. So yun yung promise and he went there But no covenant yet. Wala pang covenant. Just a blank check promise. Okay? That I will bless your family, I will bless you, and through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. Ganun yung binigay sa kanya na promise ng Panginoon. But then, here in Genesis chapter 15, bibigay ngayon sa atin yung covenant. Paano yung form ng covenant? So, habang nag-aaral, yung mga scholar ngayon, in the past several decades, at nakita nila yung mga tinatawag na covenant in the Near East. So sa time ni Moses, sa time ni Abraham, meron ng standard na covenant or treaty yung mga tao dun sa sa lugar ng Near East. That includes Israel, that includes the surrounding Middle Eastern countries. So, they have the covenant. And the covenant normally is dalawang klase. The first one is parity covenant. Ibig sabihin, dalawang ari, magkapantay ay kakaroon ng treaty, agreement. Yun yung isang covenant or agreement or contract. Pangalawa is the suzerain agreement or treaty. Ang ibig sabihin ng suzerain is there is that king and there is the lower person. Whether it be a vassal, whether it be a baron, or whether it is an empire and you are a king of a small kingdom. So gano'n, makikita natin palagi yon na nagbabayad ka ng mga buwis sa mas malaking king or sa mas malaking kingdom. So yun yung suzerain. And ito yung ginagamit dito dahil nga si Abraham at ang agreement is between God and Abraham. So between God na mataas at saka si Abraham na simpleng tao lamang. Ito yung agreement. So we look, ano yung content ng mga covenant? So una, merong premise na sinasabi, sino ako? Okay? Sino ako? So, ang unang sasabihin dito is, I am Yahweh who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give this land to you to possess it. So, ito yung tinatawag nilang preamble or introduction to the covenant. So, ito yung premise. Dahil ako ay mas powerful sa iyo, in fact, I have been protecting you from the roads going to this place from the Ur of the Chaldees or Chaldeans. So yun. And then ito na. Ito yung ang naging preamble. But before this, tandaan natin na ang istorya is already like there is a relationship established with Abraham and God sa Genesis chapter 12. Tapos there was a promise already that he will be having a descendant when he was already 75 years old. Ngayon, sa usapin na to, matanda na siya. He was already around 86 years old sa time na to. And so, malaking time na yung umagwat from the first promise na magkaroon siya ng descendant, hanggang ngayon wala pa ring anak si Sarai. So it was already 10 to 11 years. And so, sabi niya, how can I have all these promises you said when I am, in verse 2, childless? At kung mamamatay ako, ang aangkin ng aking ari-arian na totoo, binigyan mo ako ng blessings, iyong aking servant na si Eliezer of Damascus. So paano what kind of promise are you doing? And so sabi niya, labas ka sa tent, tingnan mo yung mga bituin, kung gaano kadami yung bituin na yan, ganyan kadami yung mga descendants mo. Of course, paglabas ni Abraham, makita niya, hindi niya nga mabilang. Ngayon, naiintindihan na natin kung ano kadami yung mga stars. Tingnan, billions of stars. Ganun kadami yung stars actually. So probably, doon, kuha ka ng picture, baka mabilang mo pa kung ano yung makikita mo. But actually, hindi mo siya mabibilang. So, as the